Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome Sandra Brás, and she's gonna present about RIPE NCC services.
Hello, good afternoon. As you said, my name is Sandra Brás and I work at the RAP NCC as a trainer. And today I'm going to give you an update on what are the hottest or the latest news at the RIPE NCC and the RIPE community. I will start just to give you an overview of what I'm going to talk about in the next 45 minutes. I will start talking about, sorry, this is a little bit big for me. I will start talking about what is the RIPE NCC in case you don't know what it is, but I will just ask you in a few minutes. Then I'll start talking about IPv4 depletion and also the latest news about IPv6 policy. And I will finish. Actually, I wasn't thinking about covering this here today, but I had a talk with a few people from the conference, and they told me that you here are very interested in talking about independent resources concerning your business with the RIPE NCC. So I decided to cover that at the end of the presentation, okay? Then if you need to know anything more about that, if we don't have time to cover it in the question session, just come to me. I'll give you my email address, and we do that later on. So, as I told you, I work for the RIPE NCC. Everyone here knows what the RIPE NCC is responsible for? Yeah? So, who doesn't? No? Oh, great. Well, then I don't have to explain it, right? So basically, our main function, as you're aware of, is the distribution and registration of internet number resources. Okay, so we're talking about distributing and registering IPv6, IPv4 addresses, and AS numbers, yeah? And just like us, the RIPE NCC, therefore, other organizations worldwide, they do the same thing. So forget your geography classes. This is how we split the world nowadays in the registry system. So we have all these 5 organizations that do the same thing. What concerns to the RIPE NCC region, which is Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia, this is what we do. So we are an independent, not-for-profit membership organization. So it means that we survive based on what you, maybe if you're all LIRs here, pay us every year. So we are a membership-based organization. We support and coordinate the operation of the internet in the Middle East, Europe, and Central Asia. And our core business is, as I said, the distribution of internet number resources to all our members. And by now, we have over 7,000 LIRs distributed in all this region that you see in yellow on the slide here. So how does distribution actually happens? Well, this is an example for IPv6, but it works the same way for IPv4 as well. So IANA, which is the organization that holds the address space, IANA allocates big blocks of that address space to all the regional internet registries. Like, for example, the RIPE NCC. Then the RIPE NCC has their members, has the LIRs, and we distribute to you smaller blocks of that big allocation, of that big chunk that IANA gave to us. Then out of the allocation that you receive, you will be assigning smaller blocks to your end users or to your own infrastructure. But there's a distinction in these assignments. And we have PA assignments and PI assignments that are very popular here in Poland. And the main difference is that with PA, it's the LIR that hands out to the end user, that assigns to the end user directly from their allocation. Whereas with PI, you request it to the RIPE NCC, but it's the RIPE NCC that assigns it directly to the end user. And if the end user that holds PI later on wants to move to another provider, they can do that and they don't have to renumber the network. So this is just an overview of how the distribution happens. But in order to distribute the addresses this way, there are certain procedures that we have to follow at RIPE NCC and that you as LIRs also have to follow. And sometimes we know, back there in Amsterdam, that sometimes you get a little bit annoyed with the things that you have to do in order to get address space from us. But the issue here is that it's not worth it to blame the RIPE NCC for being responsible for these rules or for these procedures, because we are not the ones that actually approve all of this, that make up these policies or these procedures. Actually, you're the ones who decide what the procedures are going to be like. Have you heard about the RIPE community? So the RIPE community is basically a group of people. They don't have to be LIRs. They are not part of the RIPE NCC, just a group of people that discuss these rules. And when everybody who is discussing the rules agrees with certain rule, then the RIPE NCC implements that rule, and it will become a RIPE NCC procedure towards our services region. And then all the LIRs have to follow that. So sometimes when you think that it's a little bit unfair to having to follow things that you don't really agree with, well, you can always change it. If you're not part of the community, if you're not subscribed to the mailing list where all these discussions happen, you can do that yourselves. You just go to the ripe.net website, and then you receive all the emails with the discussions, with the new proposals, the changes to the other policies that are in place now, and you can change things that you don't like about the work with us. So basically, nothing lasts forever. So if there's something now that you would like to change because it doesn't suit your work, it doesn't work well for you at your job, you can always change it. The policies are not laws. It is important that everybody follows them because that's what the procedure is, but they don't have to be like that forever. So if one of you here thinks that there's something that needs to be changed, you can propose a new policy, just talk to the RIPE NCC, talk to our policy development office, and we will help you proposing the policy, and then it will be discussed within the RIPE community. So the RIPE community basically develops the policies that then the RIPE NCC will implement as procedures, and it is open to everyone. So it doesn't matter if you're an LIR, it doesn't matter if you're a network operator. If you want to join the discussions, you're free to do so. And the communication, so the discussions happen in different working groups. There are several working groups depending on the topic. So for example, we have IPv6 working group, DNS working group, and so on. And then all the policies that are related to that topic will be discussed in that mailing list. And each working group is chaired by a chair, is moderated by a chair, let's say. But because discussing things on mailing lists can also be a little bit difficult sometimes, the RIPE community gets to meet twice a year at the RIPE meetings. And the RIPE meetings for 2011 will be the first one in Amsterdam in May, and then the second one will be in Vienna in October and November. And I have some good news for you, is that if you're a new LIR, so if you started as an LIR less than 2 years ago, you can get 2 free tickets to attend the RIPE meeting, every RIPE meeting that you wish. And if you cannot make it, you can also attend the RIPE meeting by remote participation. So we webcast all the sessions, and we also provide Jabber. So if you have any question during the sessions, you can ask the question, and there will be someone in the room asking the question for you to the speaker. So this is the RIPE community and the RIPE NCC main differences. The main issue here is that you should participate if you're not happy the way things are done now. So don't forget about this, okay? So your voice can still be heard. Especially now that you heard about this, at least this morning, that the IANA pool has run out of IPv4. So now, only the regional internet registries, like the RIPE NCC, have IPv4 left for distribution to the LIRs. We can't get any more IPv4 from above us, from IANA. So now it's only what we have left, and that's what we're going to give to you. IANA ran out of IPv4 in the beginning of February this year, but there's a lot of predictions being done. The thing is that we don't know when we are going to run out at the RIPE NCC. Probably none of the regional internet registries will run out at the same time. That's difficult because the needs in each region are completely different. For example, we are predicting that APNIC for the Asia and Pacific will run out of IPv4 much quicker than all the other registries because they have China and they have India, which like they have the highest IPs consumption in the whole world. So probably they will run out before us. But predictions about the date that the RIPE NCC will run out, we don't have. It can be in 3 months, it can be in 4, it can be in 1 year, we don't know that. Okay, so don't rush in like sending requests into the RIPE NCC because we still only allocate IP addresses if you qualify for an additional allocation. It's not done on a first come, first served basis. So we are here right now at the red point. Ayana has exhausted the pool. We are running business just as usual, according to the current policies, but there's one little difference, even when we still have IPv4 left. So Ayana distributed 1/8, the last 5/8s, they distributed it to each of the regional registries. So the RIPE NCC also got one. But the procedure for allocations out of that /8, it's a little bit different from what we've been doing so far, okay? So when we have only this final /8 available for allocations, the procedure will be different. But I will cover that a little bit later in the slides. It's just to give you an overview of what's happening. So after we have the last /8, we apply the policy related to the last /8, and after we run out of that last /8 even, we will start allocating only IPv6 addresses. Who here has an IPv6 allocation? Yeah? Oh, that's very good. It's not so bad. It's like half of the room. And actually, half of Poland has, not half of Poland, but half of the LIRs in Poland have IPv6 allocation. So that's quite good. But for the other ones that don't have one, what are you going to do? Are you just going to wait and see what's going to happen next? Are you going to see what your neighbors that have an IPv6 allocation are going to do with their allocation and you just copy the whole procedure? Are you going to do that? Or are you still wishing that Santa will bring some IPv4 for Christmas next year or this year? I'm a little bit afraid that Santa won't listen to you that much in this case. But what's important is that in terms of policy discussion, the people that discuss the policies are trying to make the available IPv4 addresses last as long as possible. So that's not only the existing networks, but the networks that will come up in the future will also have the possibility to have IPv4. But that, of course, won't last forever. So I'm going to focus on 3 main changes in the procedures, which is the reduction of allocation and assignment periods, also the possibility of transferring IPv4 space, and the procedure related to the last /8. Well, the reduced allocation assignment procedure just speaks for itself. So it means that when this policy, the run out fairly proposal, was accepted, before we had assignment and allocation procedures, assignment and allocation periods of 2 years. But because we didn't know if we had enough addresses for 2 years, the community decided to change the policy. And we started reducing it gradually. So right now, as you see over there, we allocate only based on 6 months period, okay? And by half of the 6 months, so in 3 months, you have to have used half of the addresses. And in July this year, we will start doing that only for 3 months, okay? And this is if we still have IPv4 addresses in July this year. Otherwise, of course, we're not going to do that. But this is the run out fairly policy. Then the other one is about transfers. So this was added to the IPv4 policy as well. And the main thing here is that we want to maybe try to avoid that you buy IPv4 on eBay, for example. We know that there's a market and that people probably will do that, but if you can do things well and according to the procedures and to the policies, that it makes life easier for everybody. So what that policy says is that the LIRs that are not using addresses, for example, they can transfer those addresses if it's at least a /21 to another LIR. But one of the requirements is that that /21 has to be empty. So there cannot be assigned addresses out of that /21 to end users. And this is an important policy nowadays because of the IPv4 runout. But all the requests for transfers will be first evaluated by the RIPE NCC, and then all the registration has to be changed in the RIPE database. So in the RIPE database, it will show who is the new holder of this address space. I also talked about the last /8 that will change the procedures of allocations of IPv4. And the main differences are that with the last /8, we are not getting the standard /21 allocation. You only get 1/22. Okay, so even if after you get this, you come to us, you request address space, and we are already allocating out of this /8, but then we give you a /22, but then after a while, you still need some more IPv4 space. You can't get it because you already got one. And we have to make sure that everybody will have their IPv4 space, so we only give one to each LIR. Another requirement is that the LIR who gets the /8 has to have IPv6 already. Otherwise, we can't allocate IPv4 space to you out of this /8. You have, of course, to meet the criteria for additional allocations. And one important thing is that out of this /8, we will reserve the /16 for things that we can't predict right now. But when we run out of all the addresses, apart from this /16, we will be starting allocating this /16 as well. So this is just reserved until the point that we have enough. After we don't have any more addresses, we will allocate out of these. And one very important thing here, especially for Poland, is that they are not allowed PI assignments out of this /8. I hope you're not too disappointed. And then after all these policy changes and policy proposals to make IPv4 last a little bit longer, you might ask, there's so many organizations out there that have huge blocks of IPv4, and they don't even announce them on the public internet. And you see the difference here. So the red line shows you the allocations done by the regional internet registries, and the blue, the address space that it's actually advertised. And the difference between both is about 50 /8s, which is a lot. And the RIPE NCC is actually contacting all the organizations in our region that have blocks like this, that people have them, but they don't use them, they don't announce them on the internet. We are contacting them and letting them know what the situation is now. But the thing is that we can't force them to give the addresses back because we're not the police. We can't just point guns at people and expect them to give the addresses back. That won't happen. So we just want to make things clear, and then if they want to send them, to give them to us, well, they're free to do so. But it's just so you don't think that people have to do that, because they don't have to. And the RIPE NCC also doesn't have the power to get the addresses back. So it's just if people want to give them to us. And another thing is that even if everybody would give these unannounced addresses back to the pool, the time that it would give us would be maybe 3 or 4 months. And at the end of the day, you would still have to start deploying IPv6. It would just postpone the problem a little bit, and it's not a solution. So if you think about growth of your company, if you think about the future of your organization, you have to start thinking about IPv6 now and not expect that IPv6 will last forever with a little bit of not here and a little bit of not there. It will do the thing, because it won't. Okay, so just start thinking about IPv6. And because we know that there's a little bit of trouble in the country, especially in the big countries with many LIRs, for IPv6 deployment, the RIPE NCC decided to develop a system of rating the countries by IPv6 allocations in those countries. So just like the hotels rating, that you have stars for hotels, like 1 star, 2 stars, and so on, we also give stars to LIRs. Okay? And if you're an LIR, you will get 1 star if you get an IPv6 allocation. And then you get the rest of the stars, whether you do all the next three things. So if you announce IPv6 prefix, you'll get second star, but this doesn't have to be in this order. I'll just follow the order on the slide. Then you get a third star, either if you register the root 6 object in the RIPE database, and you'll have a fourth star if you set up reverse DNS. And we have a calculation for that in our region, and this shows that more than half of the LIRs, so more than half of the 7,000 LIRs in the region don't do IPv6 yet, which is quite a lot. That's still a lot of work to do. And in the case of Poland, you're doing a little bit better than the average. So only half of the LIRs in Poland do not have any IPv6. And from the ones that have IPv6 allocation, it is really good to see that almost half of them, or at least, yeah, almost half of them have 4 stars. So half of the LIRs with IPv6 allocation in Poland, they actually have done something with it. They have done all the 4 procedures that we mentioned. If we compare Poland with some of the neighboring countries, this is numbers, so it's not percentages here. We can see that it's about the same size, the number of LIRs with Czech Republic. So you here in Poland have like 198 LIRs, and in Czech Republic it's 200. So it's about the same number. And you actually do about the same thing. So half of the LIRs do not have an IPv6 allocation. The same thing goes for Germany, although they have much more LIRs than you do. And Russia, they have huge, it's huge. So they have more than 1,000 LIRs, and there's still a long way to go in Russia. Ukraine is very little as well. But if we compare the percentages between the countries, you can see that you and the Czech Republic and also Germany are doing about the same thing. Okay, so it's not bad. It's actually quite good comparing to the overall result, but we still have to work a little bit on this here, okay? So we hope that it improves after this week, for example, after the PLNOG. But this is about allocations. This is not about deployment. So when we talk about deployment, things are a little bit different. So this is actual deployment. You can find the information that you find on this slide, you can find it online, and you can play around with all the countries you want. We have a list of the countries there, and all the information is collected by our root collectors spread around the world. It's the routing information service that we provide. And this shows the number of networks that announce IPv6 in our region, in the RIPE NCC region. So it's about 10% of the networks in the NCC region. Then if we compare it per country, for example, Russia is doing a little bit low. Poland is doing still a little bit below the average, which is not the same as, if you remember, as the allocations, because according to the allocations, you are doing higher than the average in the region, but in actual deployment, you're doing a little bit below, but you're doing better than Russia. And I heard yes. And in Ukraine, it's still even lower, but there's the main difference with Czech Republic, and that's what I want to show. But first, it's going to show Germany, which is quite high, as expected, but with Czech Republic. I don't know if you remember that with Czech Republic, the allocations were the same. It's exactly the same number of LIRs, exactly the same number of allocations, but in terms of networks that announce IPv6, they are a little bit higher than you are. So if you do not have an allocation yet, this is what you have to do. Can I just ask a question here? Who is actually an LIR? Okay, so who is not an LIR? Okay, so then I know who I refer to, because there are things that are also important for end users, because all our procedures, I mean, it's the LIRs who contact with us, but that will have influence on the way the LIRs will contact with the end users. So that might also be important for you. So if you're an LIR and you don't have an allocation yet, this is what you should do. You should have a plan for making assignments within the next 2 years. And when I mention a plan, I'm not saying that your plans should be strict until the end of the 2 years. A plan is a plan, and things change over time. Okay? So what you plan now may be different, and if it's different, it's good, because it's a sign that you're actually thinking about deployment for real. And it's actually a sign that you're giving these things the importance they have to have. So just make sure that you send in the request form and have this a little plan for the next 2 years. And the space that you will get from us is a /32 IPv6 addresses. One important thing is that we do not make allocations based on the transition technique that you're going to use. We only make allocations based on the size of the company and the number of end users, okay? Not about the transition technique. So it doesn't matter if you justify that I'm going to use this or I'm going to use that. That is not part of the request form. For PI space, things are a little bit different. So the minimum size to get PI IPv6 in this case is a /48, and the PI cannot be used for sub-assignments. Yeah, just remember this. And in order to get PI, you should prove to us that you multi-home, and you should also prove that you have special routing requirements for PI space. Otherwise, you will get only the PA. And another important thing is the contract. Have you heard about the contract between the LIRs and the end users about independent resources? Who hasn't? Who has? Great. Okay. I will cover this a little bit later. But remember that if you haven't sent in the contract yet, you have to do that. Otherwise, we will just get the addresses back. Yeah? Make sure you do that. For assigning IPv6 to customers, these are the rules. So we follow the ITF standards. We want to make sure that you give to your customers between a /64, which is one subnet, and a /48, which is a whole number of subnets, 65,536 subnets. So you have this whole range to think about what to assign to your customers, okay? So just remember that in IPv6, we don't think the same way we think in IPv4. In IPv4, you think about numbers of addresses. And in IPv6, sometimes you think, you know, this is huge. A /48 for a home user that uses only maybe one computer and like one mobile phone, and we're giving them more than 65,000 subnets. Because that's what a /48 is. So just make sure that you know that with IPv6 you will think about subnets and not numbers, not IP addresses. And if you need to assign more addresses than a /48, you have to send a request form to the RIPE NCC explaining why, and then we will give you more addresses for that. And now there was a change in the policy concerning the registration of assignments, of IPv6 assignments, because before, you didn't need, until 3 weeks ago, you didn't need to register the IPv6 assignments in the RIPE database. You had to register them somewhere, maybe some internal database that you were using, but they didn't have to be in the RIPE database. But since 2 weeks ago, because the community decided that the policy should change because it was creating a lot of confusion between the LIRs, they decided that from now on, the assignments in IPv6 also have to be registered in the RIPE database. But they are registered a little bit differently than the IPv4 assignments. So what happens with IPv6 assignments is that you, for example, imagine you want to make, you see that /36 there, so the inet6num is the inet_num object for IPv6 in the RIPE database, and you want to make, let's say, /48 assignments to your end users out of that /36 there. So you don't have to register in the RIPE database several inet6num objects related to each of the /48 that you want to assign. What you do is you register one single object, which is this for the /36, and then you give it the status aggregated by LIR and the assignment size 48, which is the size of the assignments that you want to make out of that /36. So what it basically is like a big bag where you put all your individual assignments, the same size assignments, and then you just register the whole thing in the RIPE database. So even if you're not an LIR, but if you use the RIPE database for searching, then this is useful to know because the objects, the IPv6 assignments in the database will be registered like this. And the status aggregated by LIR is completely new for this. Now a little bit about independent resources. So there's a few things. Well, when we talk about independent resources, we're actually talking about PI, AS numbers, Anycast, or IPv6 for internet exchanges. And now you have to send in a contract to the RIPE NCC between you and your end users, if your end users have any of these independent resources, or you sign a contract with the RIPE NCC if you have any of these independent resources. The RIPE NCC has been contacting all the LIRs to see if certain resources are still in use either by you or by your customers, because you have to pay per resource. You have to pay extra, separate from your membership fee. You have to pay 50 euros per resource that you hold or that your end users hold. And if they are not using them, or if they are not your customers anymore because they just moved to another provider, then it's important that you tell us, because you will be paying money for something that you're not using. Okay, so just make sure, if we hadn't contacted you, or if you didn't send in the contract yet, or if you didn't tell us that that end user is still your end user or not, just make sure that you do, okay? Don't wait for us to contact you. And next week, we will starting contacting all the end users as well, the end users that we don't know anything about, if they still have the resources or not. So we will contact them, but if you're an end user and you have, for example, PI space, and you didn't get any phone call or email from the RIPE NCC yet, if you want, it's important that you do. Don't wait for us to contact you, and just send an email to enduser-contract@ripe.net, and then we'll start talking to you, okay? But we're all nice and friendly. So how should you request independent resources? Well, there are 3 ways, basically. You have to be an LIR, of course, you in the room. If you're an end user, you have to go through a sponsoring LIR, right? So you request the resources, the LIR actually requests the resources on behalf of yourselves. And if you don't like any of these flavors, if you don't like the end user flavor, and if you don't like the LIR flavor, we have another thing for you, which is the direct assignment user. So this is something else. It's like an LIR without privileges. Okay, so they receive the independent resources from us, but they don't have the right to have only independent. They only have independent resources, but they don't have the right to have any other services from us, and they still pay the membership fee. Okay, but usually the most popular is either the becoming an LIR or the end user going through the LIR. In order to request independent resources in the database, you have to create organization and maintainer objects. You have to send a request form, an assignment form, to the RIPE NCC and send the contract and also the registration papers of your company together with the contract. One important thing is that sub-assignments are not allowed, as you see here. So if you're familiar with the RIPE database, the RIPE NCC puts their maintainer, like their lock, in the maintain by line in the object, in the inetnum object for example, that /23. And we also put ourselves in the maintain lower so that nobody can actually unlock that object or change it. But because we put the LIR in maintain by, so the LIR also has a maintainer in the object, which means that the LIR can change it. But if they do, we will get a notification. Okay, so if you do sub-assignments out of your PI space, the RIPE NCC will know about it, and that is against the procedure. Because what are well, the PI space, it's assigned to you or to your end user from us, yeah, and it's meant to be used by you or by your end user. So if you sub-assign it to someone else or to another end user out of your PI space, or if the end user assigns it to some other organization or some other end user, I mean, we will know if you change the object, of course, in the RIPE database. Sorry, I couldn't hear. No. this. So when you have a PI assignment,
Yeah.
this object is created in the RIPE database, an inetum object for that
Under
assignment.
Inetum, okay.
Sorry?
Under this Inetum.
Yeah, so this. I can, sorry. So this is created in the RIPE database.
Because I thought that it's not possible even to create sub object which is like Inetum 172.25.64.0/24 in example.
Well, the thing is, you can, in this case you can, because I don't know if do you understand a lot about how the RIPE database works, like the maintainers and so on, because this is quite complicated. So maybe if...
because I thought it's locked by default by RIPE to create like a official sub-assignment.
We create this. But the issue here is that you cannot change, well, you can change it, but if you change it, we will know about it, because we are protecting this object with our own maintainer. But your maintainer is also here. But if changes are done, we will know that, okay? And then we will contact you, and we'll change the object.
Okay,
back.
I have noticed that if somebody who has their own PI addresses changes them, their description, like company name, because they don't want to, for example, the full company name, like somebody plus somebody, and
Oh yeah.
that's the company name, and then it displays when some speed tests are done or something like that.
Yeah.
In statistics, so they want just to put the short company name. It's not allowed because RIPE sends back information. Please change it back. Or we did it. We changed it back and informed the customer that they are not allowed to do it.
If you want to do those kind of things, it's better to talk to us first instead of just changing things in the database. Of course, there are things that you can change without letting us know, but those kind of things, just talk to us, because then we tell you what's the best way of doing that, and then you don't get emails from us saying please do it back or so on.
But
just make sure
my
that
question
you
was
talk to
because
us.
I thought that it's not possible to create own sub object to that inetum.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you shouldn't. And if you do, we will know about that.
Sure. Okay.
I finished the presentation. So if it was right in time. So if you have any more questions, just let me know.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah.
One more.
Okay, let's say there is a sponsor LIR agreement between LIR and end user.
Yeah.
And let's say the LIR says, okay, end of agreement. What happens then in a procedure? Okay, we don't want, we just tear down this agreement, and what now the end user is supposed to do?
Well, the end user will return the addresses to you, of course, if it's PA, right?
If it's PI.
If it's PI, then the address. Oh no, actually, if
sponsor LIR is for PIs. So.
Well,
how many time do they have to find out another LIR, or?
Well, they can find another LIR as much as they want to, because they have PI, so they can. They don't need to return the PI space with them.
But what's the time frame or something like that? Is there anything described like that?
No, we don't. I don't believe we have that.
Yet.
The time frame for yet. Well, it depends on you people. You're the RIPE community. It's not us. But
no, this is a question which I have received today from a customer, because they said, okay, I can tear down this agreement.
Yeah.
And let's say I can do it with prediction. Okay, I will say next month it's finished.
Yeah. No, I don't.
What should they do then?
No, I don't think that there's a time frame for from an end user to move to another LIR.
But LIR should inform RIPE that it is not my customer anymore.
Yeah, you should. You should, specifically because of the new policy with the contracts and the extra money that you pay for independent resources. Because if you don't inform us, we will still charge you based on that end user that you have.
Until the charging point is reached. I mean.
The charging point?
Okay, because if customer quits up, I mean, the agreement is released at January.
Yeah.
And you start counting at October, November.
Oh, the charging scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So until that period,
Yeah.
it's
So
safe for us as a leader.
this is for now, for 2011.
We
Okay.
don't
So
know what's gonna
next,
happen
I
next
don't
year.
know what's going to happen next year.
Okay, so yeah, you're
But
right.
it can change. It can stay the same thing.
You may change the granularity of.
Yeah. Yeah. I
country
don't know
leader.
what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
More questions? Okay, thank you, Sandra, for your
You're welcome.
presentation. And now it's time for a 5 minutes break. And see you all for the next presentation.